The City of Barrie has hired a consultant to refresh city's community safety and well-being plan. During the December Community Safety Committee and Barrie Police Services Board meetings, council members and the police department discussed various issues. The Barrie Police Services Board meeting highlighted rising community concerns, including increases in auto theft, domestic violence, and drug-related activities. Police said the efforts to address these challenges included arrest, proactive investigations, and impaired driving initiatives. Community support programs such as food drives and holiday events were emphasized by the police department. While at the Community Safety Committee meeting, Karie Warnar of Avail Consulting proposed a focused refresh of Barrie's community safety and well-being plan to validate progress, address gaps, and streamline priorities. The plan includes resident and provider surveys, targeted stakeholder engagement, and strategy sessions to ensure actionable, evidence-based outcomes. Members emphasize inclusivity to integrate feedback from diverse groups and individuals with lived experiences. In January, Barrie will launch surveys, engagement sessions, and interviews to gather comprehensive community input and finalize strategic priorities. Between February and March, provider strategy sessions and truthing workshops will be held to refine and validate the proposed updates. The refreshed community safety and well-being plan will be finalized and presented with a detailed final report expected by April 2024, ensuring alignment with Barrie's evolving needs. Following is our coverage of the meetings.
Seeing none, those in favor? Thank you. Any conflicts of interest that any member needs to declare with or would like to declare with respect to today's agenda items? Seeing none, also distributed in advance were our minutes of December the 4th, 2024. A motion to approve those minutes. Mr. Karie. Deputy Mayor Thompson, any questions, comments, or amendments to our minutes? Seeing none, those in favor? Thank you. In our consent agenda, again distributed in advance, there are 4 items: the auxiliary and special constable appointments and terminations, time and attendance report, human resources report, and public complaints. Any of those items any member would like to hold, or any questions? Seeing none, motion to approve those consent agenda. Mr. Karie, Mayor Thompson. And then I'll hand it over to Chief Johnson is on his annual leave. I think we call it vacation. They call it annual leave here, and stepping in for his Deputy Burke. Deputy Burke, I'll hand it over to you, please, for the Chief's update.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to highlight a few events and initiatives that occurred since the last board meeting. As you can well imagine, this time of the year is rather busy. On November 23rd, we're once again thrilled to participate in the United Way Simcoe Muskoka Holiday for the Hero event. More than 20 of our uniformed members joined children from our community to shop for their families, and then celebrated the pancake breakfast, games, and crafts at the Innisfil YMCA. As you can see, we're also joined by our friends at Simcoe. The 2024 Citizens Police Academy had a graduation ceremony on Wednesday, November 28th, joined by participants' families, and also member Arfan came to pass along his congratulations. After a hiatus over COVID, we were thrilled to welcome back these community members who were interested in learning more about the Barrie Police Service and the many different aspects of our organization. Of note, out of that class, we have a couple of candidates for our Citizens on Patrol and our auxiliary program that they expressed interest in, so that worked out pretty well. On November 29th, Special Constable Shannon Callahan and BPS civilian member Amy Fitzgerald assisted with the 2nd annual Youth Haven dinner, together with representatives from Loblaws and Zehrs, local Zehrs stores. A holiday dinner was shared with the residents of Youth Haven. Youth Haven is a non-profit organization, shelter and transitional house for youth aged 16 to 24. A special thanks to Shannon. Her dedication to service within our community was recognized, acknowledged, and greatly appreciated. She's an excellent supporter of that event. November 29th, our annual Mint Tree campaign, which you passed on the way in, got underway with a generous donation of a tree from Somerville Nurseries, who've been a supporter again for a few years now. Donations of new or handmade mittens, hats, and scarves will be accepted until December 20th, when they'll be sorted and donated to organizations serve the community. And as you can see from the amount in our lobby, it's very well supported. December 9th through the 13th, we're very fortunate to have Detective Constable Deb Howe go to Manchester in the United Kingdom to learn from the experts at the Family Liaison Officer Coordinator course. Lieutenant Constable Howe has been instrumental in launching our Family Liaison Officer program here at the Barrie Police, and we've had many inquiries from other services about our program. December 10th, members of Barrie Police Services visit the Canadian Blood Services on Bayview Drive to continue our ongoing commitment to this important cause. With 117 blood donations made from BPS so far this year, we're well on our way to meeting our team goal of 125 before the end of the year. A reminder that anyone who is a blood donor can join the BPS team. Reach out to corporate communications for information on how to be part of Team BPS. December 12th, which was a snow day, the kids were very happy. The schools weren't, because it was actually time to pick up for Christmas cheer. An all call went out. We were notified by a member of our service. We put a team in action, sent our command post 350. The school was Guthrie. After the initial shock, when 350 pulled in, we actually filled. We were amazed how much it was. We filled 350 and then over to Christmas cheer. So it was an excellent effort all around. There was many organizations that actually helped out that day. So excellent effort this time of year. Members of the Barrie Police Service, including sworn, civilian, auxiliary, and citizens on patrol, have been taking part in food drives, clothing drives, boot drives, toy drives, all to give back to our community during the holiday season. December 6th, Constable Pratt Batra was presented with a King Charles III Coronation Medal, recognizing his outstanding contribution to the community through his continued volunteer work with the Barrie Food Bank and Big Brothers Big Sisters of Barrie District. MP Doug Shipley and MPP Doug Downey presented the medal to Constable Batra. Constable Batra is one of 25 community members to receive this recognition. Oh, there we go. Festive Ride program on Thursday, November 1st. We attended the launch at the Halton Regional Police Headquarters. Strategically, we sent down the Battenberg Mach E DP and placed it right in the center of the photo, and joined other police services from across Ontario and reminded the public that it is never an excuse for driving impaired. Our members are trained as drug recognition experts and in standardized field sobriety testing, and drivers can expect to see ride checks during the holiday season, throughout the year, and at any time of day. Use a ride share or taxi, arrange for a ride or a designated driver, or stay the night. There are so many options to help you and others stay safe. Our recruiting team has been busy lately as well. December 5th, we hosted an employment and information session. December 13th, 6 recruits took part in the final march past at the Ontario Police College before returning for 3 weeks of Barrie Police specific training. Special thanks to Board Chair Greg Ferguson for attending this event for the first time, and our members truly appreciated the support, and I believe Chair Ferguson enjoyed the event. January 8th, on January 8th, they'll receive their badges at a recruit grad, and then they'll spend several months with a coach officer for further training. Graduate Diploma in Police Leadership. Earlier this month, 9 members of the service wrapped up their year-long educational journey with the completion of a graduate diploma in police leadership. Completing online through the Ontario Tech University, these graduate school level courses provide our members with a solid foundation in the historical origins and development of policing as a social institution, the ability to critically examine, evaluate, and implement police-related research and data, insights into the impact of issues related to equity, diversity, and inclusion in policing, and experience in developing evidence-based strategies to drive change. I would like to congratulate and recognize the following members for their commitment to this very intensive program. Detective Constable Alyssa Aker, Detective Constable Ben Hayes, Detective Constable Josh Knight, Records Manager Nicole Lees, Stratcom Supervisor Jenna Hayes, Sergeant Steph McGibbon of our CAP unit, IT Manager TJ Medlin, and Constables Devin Tompkins and Candace Wilkinson. It was a tremendous amount of work, and they forged through and all successfully completed. December 10th, we at Barrie Police Service Headquarters, actually right in the community room, our supervisors, both sworn and civilian, and we had harassment awareness and response training. We actually were very fortunate to have Warnar Bernardi, who's a recognized subject matter expert in the province and across the country in this as the lead instructor for us. Training included group work, case studies, open and respectful discussions, We know that our internal culture has a significant impact on how people feel about coming into work each day. We want to make sure we're doing everything we can to make this a supportive, inclusive, and welcoming workplace. Canadian Framework for Trauma-Informed Response in Policing. December 6th marked the internal launch of the Canadian Framework for Trauma-Informed Policing, a groundbreaking initiative by the CSWP, Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, that establishes a new national standard for trauma-informed practices in policing. A public launch will be held in the new year by CSWP. This framework, which we're very proud of, was co-authored by Inspector Val Gates and civilian members Victoria Chimowitz and Madison Sherman. Reflects the culminations of years of collaboration and expertise. Inspector Gates led the CSWP working group that developed the framework, which aims to improve outcomes for survivors of violence, build trust within communities, and enhance the professionalism of police services across Canada. To further these efforts, Inspector Gates was invited to deliver training on trauma-informed sexual violence investigations course tailored for the dedicated investigators of the Greater Sudbury Police Service. The specialized training integrates the principles of the framework and equips participants with skills, empathy, and professionalism necessary to handle sensitive cases effectively. By championing trauma-informed, victim-centered approaches, Barrie Police Service continues to support the adoption of innovative practices that foster transparency, community trust, and safety. Barrie Police Service is honored to contribute to advancing these essential standards through both the framework and this training initiative. An online version of the report is available by visiting the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police website under resources. Meeting the partnership, myself and the chief attended the OACP CEO days with a number of other chiefs and deputies. Inspector of Policing held an information session on their policing insight statement, which then was followed up by a survey both to the board and to the service. Update with the OPP, the chief and I attended GHQ for Joint Forces Operations update, which covered every Joint Forces operation they're involved in. Of course, our monthly meeting with the City of Barrie. As you can see from the picture here, the CTV year-end interview, which will be airing soon, and the continued meetings with the Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee. Highlighted investigations, November 25th, a break-and-enter was reported at Business and Commerce Park Drive. Video surveillance showed 5 males arrive in 2 motor vehicles and with 4 minutes flee the area with the items that have been stolen. The investigation remains ongoing. November 27th, during a traffic stop, police observed a male in a back seat who was initially unresponsive, and officers were obviously concerned for his well-being. It was found, though, that the male was not to be in need of medical attention, was attempting to evade police as he was found to be in possession of a large quantity of drugs as well as a firearm. December 3rd, as part of a proactive investigation into drug trafficking activity, the Barrie Police Service Drug Enforcement Unit and Community and Safety and Wellbeing Team arrested 2 individuals and executed 2 warrants at residential addresses in Barrie. Assisted by the Barrie Police Tactical Support Unit, 2 17-year-old Barrie males were taken into custody without incident. At the time of their arrest, they were each found to be in possession of a loaded firearm and a quantity of suspected cocaine and methamphetamine. December 11th, a frontline uniform-led investigation with assessments from the service's Criminal Investigative Division, Tactical Support Unit, Canine Unit, and the Community Safety and Wellbeing Team concluded with the arrest of 6 people, 3 males and 3 females, all facing drug-related possession and trafficking charges. A large quantity of suspected cocaine and fentanyl was seized, again along with fire. On behalf of the Barrie Police Service, I'd like to wish the board, members of the community, a very joyous and safe holiday season. And that is the end of the update.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Burke. Questions or comments for the deputy? I just have one, as the deputy made reference, I did attend the Ontario Police College graduation last week. If you can find the time and the opportunity, please do so. It was a wonderful event to see. There was 493 grads, of which we were allocated 6. Certainly we would have liked to have been allocated more, and the valedictorian speech was presented by one of our 6 members, Drew Wood, which is what the valedictorian speech was. One of the 6 members, Drew Wood, from our pass tonight, but Deputy Burt picked up some time on the way home, but it was a wonderful event to attend. That concludes our open meeting for this morning. Motion to move into camera in accordance with Section 44(1)A of the Community Safety and Policing Act with respect to personnel and legal matters. Mr. Conner, Deputy Mayor Thompson, just if everyone's in favor. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to everyone. Appreciate the support, certainly of the members of the service, but of the community for the Barrie Police Service. I wish everyone a happy holiday and a wonderful new year. Thanks very much.
We do have some new people as well. I'm Greg Ferguson. I'm with the Barrie Police Services Board. We'll just go around and.
I'm the police clerk and director of legislative assistance. Ashley Mason, executive assistant to the CAO.
Eric Shunkle, policy advisor to the
John Lucis with City of Barrie.
John McDowell, manager of housing and women's in the County of Simcoe.
Interfaith Barrier General Manager, Social Service.
Scott Young, superintendent with the Simcoe County District School Board, Safe and Welcome to Schools.
Mia Brown, Simcoe Muskoka District Telephone.
Warnar, CSWP consultants.
Irina Posgett-Jones with the Child and Family Services Coalition.
Suzanne Kings, I'm the director of the Barrie and Ontario Health Team. Anne Tuggle, Ward 3 City Councillor and appointed to the committee.
Tara MacArthur, I'm a coordinator of elections and special projects, filling in for Karie today.
And those online, maybe starting up at the top left corner there with Chief Johnston.
Rich Jones with the Barrie Police Service.
Clockwise, I guess.
Mandy Sedzik, Simcoe Muskoka Catholic School Board Assistant Superintendent of Safe and Accepted Schools.
I'm Janet Mays, supervisor.
We got half of Jen. Jen's with the Barrie Police.
Kamlesh Vizaladia from County of Simcoe.
Hi, Geraldine Julie Phillips. I'm the ED at Simcoe Muskoka Family Connection. Sorry I couldn't be there in person today.
Well, welcome everyone. Looking at today's agenda, we have presentations nil, but it sort of is a presentation described in our agenda as discussion items. And we were all presented in advance. I don't know if everybody's had an opportunity to the consultation framework as we move forward. And I guess it's just easiest just to hand it over to you, Karie, to walk us through. We've got some decisions to make with respect to how we move forward with respect to survey questions, stakeholder lists, confirmed timeline, and then we'll look at next meeting. So, Karie, maybe you can walk us through, and during that, stop during that discussion as to decisions that may need to be made by this committee. Probably that's the best way to do it.
Very much. So you would have received in your package last week a document, and this document stems from the last conversation we had when I was with the group, just talking about the stakeholder engagement and kind of, figuring out who it was we were looking at, because, the list could be this long, the list could be this long, and not wanting to miss the mark on the purpose of the consultation. And then that brought about the question of, well, what is the purpose of the consultation? So why are we doing this consultation? So I put together just a couple of pages here, and I'm not going to read it word for word, but maybe we just move section by section. If anybody has any comments or critiques or thoughts or things that you feel are missed, this is our chance to get them in. Because if we look at the timeline of this consultation, the bulk of this consultation is going to take place in January and dribble into February, with wrapping up at the end of February. So that is the timeline. That's the timeline that was proposed. I feel like we're on track to that. I do want to introduce a bit of an additional thing. It wasn't in the scope, it's not an additional fee, but I think that would round out the conversations that need to be had. So the purpose of the document is really to outline the approach to the stakeholder consultation for the refresh of the plan. And again, it's important to remember that this is a refresh of the plan rather than an entire rewrite of the plan. With that being said, looking at your current plan, I saw in your update that you feel that, based on, I guess, a survey or some consultation you did, that 13 of the 15 items that's in your current plan are on track to be completed in 2024. So there is going to be some, am I okay in that, my interpretation of what I read?
I didn't know if it was that high, but I like the number.
Well, I did read that in, it was a document that Dawn had sent, and it was a formal summary, I guess, of where this group or whoever was consulted at that point felt they were on track, and there was a bit of a write-up with each of the 15 items, action items. Some are kind of ongoing, like if it's a health report, it might be ongoing. But that was what I was basing it off of. So while it is a bit of a revisit or refresh, there is, I expect, going to be some net news. So in looking at the questions, you may have looked at the questions, and we'll get to that in a moment. I thought, well, why did she not put this question in? And maybe there is a fundamental question that might have been missed, and we can talk about that. But at the same time, if it is a refresh and not an opening up the basket all over again, we have to stay a little focused and targeted. And so we should keep that in mind when we're going through the list of organizations or people that we're looking to consult. So the purpose of the consultation activities is to validate the current plan, so given that it's a refresh, not a rewrite, look for any gaps or emerging needs. So understanding that that first plan was developed with the release of July 1st, 2021. I think you guys were looking a little bit earlier than that. But that, that's working off of maybe some older data. We've had a whole pandemic kind of, come through in that time, and sometimes communities change. And so we want to be able to capture in this consultation if there's anything that we should kind of have our ears perked up and make sure that it gets captured in the plan. Or if there's anything that was not in the first plan that as a committee or as a community we thought, wow, that was a missed opportunity. We should really make sure we get that in the plan. Streamline and refocus. And again, I talked about this last time. A lot of ambition with these community plans right across Ontario. Good intention, lots of stuff in there, but getting to it has been tricky at times, and biting it off and chewing it and digesting it is also really, really important. So that has to be doable. So in the next iteration, there are some thoughts, in different communities. And I think you had expressed it too, to kind of, what can we kind of, I don't want to say whittle it down, but is there focus areas that we can really kind of laser in on and see some impact going forward? Strengthening collaboration and ownership, again, not uncommon, is that people can commit to these plans, but when it gets to the action piece and how do you move it forward, it hasn't always worked out. So sometimes it's been very, very strong, and partners have been able to kind of commit the time or resources or effort. And then sometimes things change, things just naturally change, and so it might not have the strength. So the thought is going forward that whatever lands in the plan is going to be able to be backed by action and ownership as well. And then aligning with evidence and best practices. So that's where we have different types of data. We have quantitative and qualitative data, and we also have evidence of what has worked in the past. And we want to keep that in mind as we move forward. Is there anything that in that section that you feel you should be aiming for, and I have it outlined as far as the purpose of the consultation activities? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to the next section. So, we talked about the evolving and shifting community needs. Also wanting to make sure that, there's diverse perspectives in the plan, and so, having a thoughtful approach to that. We talked a bit about that last time, and we'll talk about that a little bit more today. Informed decision making, so whatever strategies land in the plan, how did we kind of arrive on those, like what informed those decisions? Building trust and engagement, so having I would say a robust consultation strategy to me is a good step towards having that transparent and inclusive consultation process. And then adaptability, so having that agility that I spoke about last time. You can have strategies, but I think there's always, I think this time around I've strongly encouraged communities to consider having, the option for dynamic priorities. When I say dynamic priorities, it means that if there was a ton of money that was to graciously come into the community for some type of targeted effort around some strategy, that it could be considered and incorporated into the plan if it aligned with kind of the overarching objectives of the plan. So having that in the back of our minds, a bit of a mindset that there is a little bit of agility that we need to see in these plans. Anything with that section, or shall I move on? Okay, exciting stuff, I know. All right, we'll keep going. So the overview of the consultation process. So just to remind everybody what we were going to do, there's telephone polling. So I have kind of secured a relationship with a company that's actually done work for the City of Barrie in the past around telephone polling, looking at 1,000 households. Again, I will need so let's talk about the decision here. Who are those 1,000 households? So how have you done it in the past? How would you like to see it done? Because this will be information that I will need to give and take back to the polling company. So I'm going to pause there and open it up to the group. The question is specifically, how do you divide up 1,000 households across Barrie?
So is the purpose to try and get as diverse a response or polling as possible? So I would leave that to the statisticians in the room to determine how you determine that.
I think unpacking what we mean by diverse as well, I think would be important, right? Are we talking about based on household incomes, based on other demographic factors? I think that's an important consideration, because I absolutely agree it should be a diverse sample as much as possible, but really diving into what we mean by diverse.
And diversity can be geography as well, right? So how have you done it? Maybe if somebody can help me understand how we've done it in the past. If this isn't something that this group feels overly confident in making a decision on with the additional information, maybe I could work with Wendy and Ashley offline and figure out from within the City of Barrie how this has been done in the past, and if there's any internal recommendations that could be brought back. The challenge will be is that this committee might not meet again before this work needs to take place.
What about looking at different postal codes? Like you take a sample from each postal code in Barrie?
Or do you do it by wards?
I mean, it depends on, I think, just the questions you want to ask on the demographics, right? Which is, do you care about getting representation across the city? And then you can ask them to identify by ward. Most people, I still don't think, know what ward they're in. So you just want it by postal code. Do you want it by age and self-declared income from a validation point of view? So is that what you care about? Or do you want to get a business sample in? We talked about youth. Do you want to, so how are you targeting your distribution or selection of where that poll goes out to, so you can make sure you might land on like a family with young adults versus some postal codes that just might be more commercial business area. So are we eliminating businesses, or do they have an opinion on community safety and well-being? So it might just be around making sure that there's no kind of artifact that plays into wherever you go for your poll. Can you validate that these are residential? Are you hitting seniors complexes, like from condominiums that just are naturally seniors-based housing? And are you collecting business input? And they probably have an opinion, I would say, considering the number of businesses that I do get, but I'm not sure if that's what you want, right? So if you want this to be what's going well, or what you care about, I think whatever happens is at least being able to say, is it a snapshot point in time when we get who we get, and do we care about the demographics? And we just want to say it's a cross sector of people living in Barrie. And then do you validate from the demographics where you can dive deeper and actually have a different type of survey versus the phone poll? So I'm not just sure. The methodology might just limit you on how much information you get back.
How would you, I'm asking the question, how would you even know that until you've contacted a potential person? If you're selecting randomly somehow, and we want to get a wide range, to answer your question, all the above. But if, we've got too many 50-year-olds, thanks for taking the time, next, how do you do that?
Because I'm assuming phone call is generic.
I'm assuming, I don't have direct telephone polling experience myself, but I'm assuming you could front load the demographic questions at the beginning of the telephone conversation and say, let's run through some of these demographic questions And if you've already hit your quota on some of those
They won't do
characteristics.
that. I know they
don't do that?
will, because they're not gonna make more than, you're paying them to make 1,000 calls.
And I was gonna ask that.
And the
'cause-
demographics come at the end, and that's.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, you end up with 3,000 calls because you keep deleting people. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, I think that we have to give them a list. I think we have to,
Sorry, can I just clarify, they're making 1,000 calls, or they're making calls until they reach a sample of 1,000? Because that's
it's
very
1,000
important.
households contacted. So I can get clear on that breakdown. And I can get recommendations from them. I think that in the past it has been by ward, they said. The last one I think they did with Barrie was by ward.
I would think the telephone is purely that, it's random. We have other mechanisms to
random.
ensure that we get,
Inclusivity.
in the other 4 bullets here, to make sure we get specific. I would see this as random.
Well, it is, they say it's random sampling, right? And it's so,
We're ensuring in the other bullets that we're getting specific people, organizations. So this would be a random call, I think, and see what we get.
I worry then, because knowing that most people, when they get a phone call to do a survey, I mean, the sample, that if they're calling 100 households, I don't know how much of a sample we're actually going to get out of that.
I can find out.
And then I would also be curious around what is the tendency of certain demographic groups to actually say yes to a survey versus other demographic groups that may not trust that method, even less than other households. So I just would, not suggesting that it's not going to be randomized, but I think we really want to make sure we're asking those demographic questions as well, so that if we do end up with a sample of, let's say 300 or 500 completed surveys, we really understand what is our demographic breakdown of people that did answer the survey, just so you know.
Yeah, and my experience is that's the statistician that says, okay, here's the response. You got to realize only people over 50, I'm making it up, over 50 answer these things. So you're really dealing with, this population. Anytime you get data, you have to analyze it to say who actually responded, because obviously I think you're normally going to get an older crowd responding than younger.
For our budget survey that we do every year, we do 10%, like we do 100 per ward. So we spread it out like 100 calls per ward. So then it's spread out evenly through the city. So that's another option that we do.
does the group feel comfortable? So I'm not sure, like this was a recommendation before I came on, is that something that the group felt strongly about was the telephone polling, and so that's why it was included in the process. So knowing that there was some thought of, the importance of this, and knowing that historically you have divided it by 10, 100 in each, do you feel confident applying that same methodology to this?
Councilor Congo, I'll ask the group that.
For me, it's about where in the process and what's, why is it the right tool? So I know we got into brainstorming a lot and broad conversations on different pieces, and we generated a lot of things about poll. But for me, it's about fit. So I would say it would make sense to me to do a poll if we first got information out and we wanted some type of kind of pulse check to say, okay, we know we went to certain stakeholders, we know we're generating lists to do that. Are we hearing themes? And then is the poll of benefit in any way to then get kind of confirmation? This is what we're hearing, do you agree? Like, I'm assuming the phone poll that we're getting to in the weeds of it is more of a yes or no. You're not really having a conversation depending on how it's
It
set
will
up.
follow the same, it's at the back of this packet, it will follow the same as a resident online survey. So knowing that not everyone's going to do the online survey, it's just another way to try and get them to engage them, and so it will mirror the online survey.
Same questionnaire.
Same questionnaire.
And I would just say, depending on how long that survey takes, my concern would be more about hang-ups. Like,
I did talk about that on the phone more than 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes, which is about my personal max with these things, if I even engage doing them. So am I hearing that you want to hold on the polling, or do you want to?
I think that's the question. Do we have enough confidence it's going to give us relevant information to assist the committee.
Or do we assume it's something that's coming after the survey, we're summing up the survey and that's what's informing the common questions? But it sounds like it's a duplication of the survey, it's just another way to push it out.
It's another way to put, it's a more targeted way of pushing it out. I think Mayor Nuttall was talking about, my last meeting, going and approaching people in a mall, and this is a different variation of that. It's targeted. I've got the number. I'm going to see if I can grab them home to see if somebody will actually do the survey. I see value in it, but you might find when you get this, there is no previous poll to look at for community safety and well-being. That would be my big first question was like, do you have a previous poll that I could look at? There wasn't. So if it was to be done this time around, and you looked at it and you're only getting one demographic group, then you might decide that this is not something that's viable going forward for when you refresh the plan again. I don't know what you'll find, quite frankly. I think we have an assumption of what we might find.
I'm wondering, just given that type of method, and that we can't verify what the demographics would look like going into it, I'm wondering if it might be an opportunity to reinvest that rather than going with the polling, do some targeted marketing around the resident survey so that we're actually getting a stronger emphasis on that other online survey to then hit different segments of the population in that way.
I personally like that. I don't have a lot of confidence. Maybe that's just my personal view that I'm answering. But I don't know what other people feel about it. Just please.
I was going to say that I think you're going to get a lot of do not disturb, so they won't even answer it. And I wanted to know if they're calling, are we paying on the contact of the call or just the call?
That's what we said. They said 1,000 households sample. Yeah. So I can get clear with them on their definition of what contact. Is it like a completed survey, or or they just like called the number and they didn't get it?
Yeah, I tend to agree with what Irina said, that if you're targeting it based on specifics for the residents, you're probably going to get a little bit more response. Just from past surveys that I've done, I've noticed that if they're invested in it because of if the context makes sense to them or the content, then you'll get it. But if it's just a random call, I feel like you're going to get a lot of people that won't even answer it. They'll just click you on do not disturb a little bit.
Where did it come from? Like, how did it kind of land in the, like, did it come, is there someone that we should be, I mean, this group is,
Was it fair to say that it was just generated at the brainstorming session you had?
Yeah, it was brainstorming. It was, I think to answer the question more, maybe more specific, was the word random. Much of what we're proposing here is targeted. And the question came up, well, what about what's not targeted? In terms of hearing from those people, I think that's where it came from, was that quote random.
And it might be fine. I think it's just managing our expectations about what are we expecting this to provide to us.
Yeah, I think it's, and what's the cost? Like, is it, are we adding $5,000 for this, or
it's in the bill already, and it's between 7 and 10. I have to firm it up with that.
Yeah, so it's just between 5 and 10.
Yeah.
Is that the best use of resources? I'm asking.
Maybe we can clarify whether it's numbers called, because if it's 1,000 called, 200 responses, it might not be a good use of funds as opposed to 1,000 responses.
I'm pretty confident it'll be calls,
I agree.
not responses. Please.
So it'll be low.
For political polls, it's pickups usually.
Pickups.
So they can pick up and immediately hang up. And usually your first question has a much higher response rate than your fifth question.
So let's assume it's pickups. Let's just assume that if we may.
And it's still not statistically relevant when you look at the population of Barrie, 1,000. It adds to the bigger picture of all the other consultations, but it's not, on its own, it won't be statistically relevant for 1,000 calls.
Like, does it move us to action, like to the other direction we expect, or is it just trying to do better at engagement? And I'm thinking, well,
do you have any evidence of what 1,000 calls has produced in the past? Like, is it, oh, good, okay.
So the budget, our budget survey, for example, it had, we attempted to pull 1,000. We did receive 988. 617 specific to city services and 371 specific to the county, the service partners services. So that would include police, county, library. There's some survey questions for that. So, but I guess when we're talking about people's money, they want answers. So. Yeah.
Are you saying there was 900 some responses from 1,000 calls?
Surveys.
That would be surprising to me.
Let me just go back over. This is an online survey. My apologies.
And those have been working really
So
well.
they volunteered basically, they volunteered to do the survey by going
I'm trying to
online.
find the final survey results. So my apologies. I misspoke. My apologies. There's some surveys that we do.
I heard the number around like 20% at best.
Yeah.
So 1,000 calls, you're looking at maybe 200 responses, and most of them will be partials. So for $10 a call, you know, like that 10,000 is actually almost $200 a call. Like, I mean, I don't think that's like, I mean, if it were going to get to, I think you double down on your surveys and keep them open for longer periods of time, in different sections, like maybe use your library systems and stuff like that to do some face-to-face engagement, which is, libraries are kind of like a random sampling of people, often they say, so different things like that I would do. I mean, you could take that $7,000 and put it into some face-to-face engagement survey, okay, 200 people. Maybe you'll get a full survey.
Or advertising.
I was gonna say, like, we could get really,
social
Facebook
media,
ads, like,
yeah.
we could get really creative.
QR codes.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it goes down to the survey.
For the resident survey, yes.
Yeah.
That's-
What's the cost of sending out flyers to houses to say, go to this site?
That's citywide mail is $11,000.
But you would hit every household,
Versus 10.
potentially with a QR code with a push
Yeah.
notification and engagement. So I'd almost say,
But the reason why that's probably the better option is like the survey, like you can't exclude duplicates when you do onlines or like face-to-faces. Like someone should just be answering the same survey 3 times over. But like maybe the mail out for the same $10,000 is probably your best bang for your buck. And you like that mail out's a big number, right? Like it's you just opened up your sample size. So even if you get like a 10% response rate, it's going to be way better for the same price.
The caution with the mailer is that we use the ad mail through, sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted. Yeah, then we do Canada Post. But sometimes it's very random and how many municipalities will get it. And so that's the caution that I put forward with the mailer, because members of council do it all the time, and they overlap wards, people get upset, so, but I mean, sometimes like people in Innisfil will get like, so just a caution to land on that, but, the majority of it stays in Barrie, like it's just, I know some kind of random postal codes, they just,
Oh, please.
So, sorry, I forgot to shoot that before. Keep forgetting. Keep forgetting the committee structure. So maybe we pick an internal non-bordering ward, and instead of doing a whole mail out, you just do one ward. Still, your sample size will be large, less likelihood of it crossing into other municipalities, and then. Yeah, and then like save some money. Instead of 11,000, maybe it's a few thousand to do one ward, and then that way, at least you're getting a good broad sample of a whole ward, and you can say that.
You could.
Or even a couple
Please,
of
the tough part
wards.
of picking which ward, but
I know they're diverse.
Karie, I'm just wondering, from a timing perspective,
Right, like by the time they get to, with the backlog of mail, by the time they get to people's doors, are you gonna get the information in time?
So long as we have, I would like the surveys to be wrapped up by the end of January. I would like the surveys to, go out and have a 2 to 3 week runtime and we're starting to look at the evaluation piece of it by that last week of January.
So if we know that at the beginning of January, like the post office get rid of their backlog and everything like that, usually like when we do our merits for members of council, they get out within like 2 or 3 days. So they could potentially have like the whole month of January. I mean, I wouldn't go and do it right now, obviously, because they're so backlogged.
I read today, January 15th, before they get through the backlog. That's what I read in the paper today. So we're 2 weeks, and I think they said it's gonna be into the new year, even before they're, at least 5 days before they're even accepting new mail. So, yes,
There is
please.
opportunity to put them at rec center, like the rec center, sorry.
I just wanted to ask again about the finance online one that you did. How did that get communicated out?
All our budget stuff is communicated through social media, on our website, word of mouth through the council.
So this would just be maybe in some, we'd already be doing that with this one?
I think it's already on there as a second, the resident survey post to the municipal website. It's on the same format, buildingbarrie.ca.
Yeah.
We do have a bit more to get through in
Yeah.
the meeting, so I just want to know, for the next steps, I can clarify the question with the polling company, just to put that to bed if you want, or if you feel like you've mentally moved past that, that I don't have to reach out to the polling company. What do you want my next steps to be?
Thank you.
So just to that answer, I think you should walk away from the polling company and go, like, strategize around the mail out. Even if you get it at the end of January, you still do your other engagement components and evaluate the data as it comes in. And this could kind of actually validate the sampling. Because if you're sampling and you're hearing the same things on the same averages, then it kind of validates your whole evaluation process. So I would just do it that way, just go one ward, save some money, do it for the end of January, and then it'll be the last thing you do on your evaluation. That's all.
Maybe to complement that, making some assumptions, like even if before the mail out goes, if we've got it on the website and we can post on a plexiglass, right, with stand-ups, QR codes, and we're pushing people to it at libraries, at rec centers, like at facilities people are, you'll get that content coming in while the mail out's ready to go. And you can look at where the rec centers are and then look at other wards for the direct mail.
Yeah.
Making some assumptions, but you can at least look at how to be visible or like internal wards. 3 of them should give you a pretty good cross section, like from a downtown, from an old East End, and then from a south end, like the Annandales, maybe more affluence. The internal, like 4, Letitia Heights, and then 2, you get the downtown, you get the condos, you get the seniors, you get a range, right?
Yeah.
So is the committee in agreement, we're gonna drop the survey and look at some type of
Drop the polling.
polling, thank you, the polling, and look at something. Yeah, I like 3 wards, and I think the cost, so you pick the downtown and then maybe a pure residential and then a mixed one.
Or 6 and 4, something like that, where at least you've got dense populations, but if you go outside of boundaries, you're gonna hit another ward. You're not gonna hit out of region.
Can I ask then, if we're selecting you said 3 wards, what, if there's any budget left over to then support some advertising? Because I think that might still be an opportunity. Because that's still, it's not limiting, like it's the mail out would take people to the landing page on the city website, right? So it's still an open survey for anyone else.
Accessibility, QR codes, you can go everywhere, but your mail out might just be more mindful of a budget, get a cross section, and you might have a better mix of different demographics.
But I'm just clarifying that the survey itself is available to any resident.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The second one, the resident survey is available.
Yeah.
And I assume there'd be some type of, I had written that same question, is there gonna be some type of rollout in social media or something to direct people to the survey, which I have seen the city do before. So I agree, we need to probably make a decision right now, and B, we can't go into January and February, we kind of today have to make some decisions as to what we're gonna do. Are we okay dropping the polling and moving to some type of direct mail out to 1, 2, 3 wards? Are we okay with that? Any objections? Okay, we're on to number 2, resident survey.
Okay, fantastic.
Which should be easy, it's just other than how we're gonna market it.
Right. So, and like you said, you have done a great job in the past of, getting surveys out, and so I expect we'll follow the same kind of process. We won't get into the questions on the survey. Let's wait till we get to the end. One-to-one interviews, we had recruitment proposal 6 to 8 key kind of equity seeking groups to be consulted, and so you'll notice in the table, I've made some recommendations, and we can, kind of hopefully you had a chance to look at that table, and maybe something jumped out and you thought, oh, I don't think that's the right approach. Maybe we can talk about it then. Presentation and engagement sessions. So this is a little different. This is looking at, Suzanne inviting you to the Barrie Oak, and so that is, online, a group of, 40 plus potential organizations or screens. So it's not that same level of like one-to-one engagement, but those providers will be invited to complete a provider survey. So something that was not originally in the proposal was a provider survey, because we were going to do, a provider engagement session, but I feel like we need to, it's my recommendation that we open up the provider survey to really, any provider in the community, just to kind of get that well-rounded, kind of holistic lens on it. But for groups like the OAT, like the collaborative table as well, the coalition, I should say, I talked to Irina offline since the last meeting, and we have a tentative date that I will do the same thing that I do with the Barrie Oak to the coalition. And there was one other group, I think, that kind of fell into the same category as that. Just can't remember at this point. Let's see. Possibly the Chamber and Barrie Cares as well. And so those, and potentially SCADA, but I'm not quite sure about their current structure and formation, so I'd have to, I know who to kind of connect with to see if that is a possibility. So I'd like to arrange for those to take place in January, so January is a very busy month for engagement. And then,
I'm sorry to interrupt on that too, like the Chamber has a newsletter that goes out to all members, so if you had a QR code for a partner survey, right, you could get directly to those that maybe not are at the in-person.
And if I may, on the survey, just to update, on late January 24th, 25th, I'm looking at Chief Johnson and Jenna that the Barrie Police Survey will be available. So it's being presented to the police board on the 23rd. So I can say that I'm very surprised at the response. I haven't seen any responses, just the numbers. So that we've already got a major survey completed, finished on the 22nd of November. So the police board's waiting for that analytics. So we've got a major survey on safety issues that will be available by the end of January. So keeping that in mind in terms of who we're surveying, that has been done and will be available.
That's great. Okay, and then provider session. So to host one provider session. So this would be really at the end of the consultation, because what I would like to think would happen at that provider session is that is a little bit more of an invite. It's going to be providers that operate more in the space of the areas of risk that have been identified through the survey. We would look at the findings, the results of the provider survey, the resident survey, the engagement sessions, and that is where those providers are coming together to really look at strategy, right? So what's doable, what's possible, what are we hearing, what aligns with what's already maybe in the works or in motion that we can amplify or leverage. And then from there, those would be some of the recommendations that come back to this committee around what goes in your plan. So that is the piece that kind of pulls the findings together. Prior to that, you would receive something from myself and from the colleagues that I'm working with on the evaluation piece. Short, tight, clean, what was heard in the surveys. So not 100 pages, a couple pages that pulls it together for you, so you know what the providers are really kind of looking at going into their engagement session around the areas of risk that kind of came through in the findings. Any thoughts on that piece?
I was just going to mention, I think the provider session is so important because there were a number of partners who were listed on action items who are part of this table So how are they gonna support initiatives going forward if they're named to an action item without being involved in the planning?
Yeah.
So I think those people kind of be brought to the top throughout the process, and then I think that'll be really valuable to pull it all together.
I think if we look at the matrix, that's where we'll address that, I think.
Just for clarity, the provider session, is that a meeting with all of the ones that you've indicated?
Yeah, so, and you know, we might find as the results kind of come in from these surveys and what have you, that there's, you know, something kind of really emerging around a potential strategy, and we might want to make sure that in that provider room, you have the right people to say, this is what we're seeing. Is there anything happening already in this space that we can, you know, amplify or leverage? Or if there's not, is there anything that new, and who's going to do it? Because what we don't want is we don't want a lot of really good, ambitious ideas of things that could take place, but are never going to get off the ground. So
The reason why I'm asking, are you intending to have one provider session or multiple? Because there's 30 different groups that you've identified here.
it's going to be one session. Because it has to be a kind of a united conversation, right? So there will be a facility, it's not going to be sitting around talking, there will be a facilitated session. So there will be there's a methodology to it. So I've built out the methodology in the back end. Happy to share that with you at maybe the January meeting of what that might look like. So you know, going into it, what the task, what the objective of the day. Some of it is going to be sharing with the providers really, really quick and high level, what was found during the surveys. Both the provider survey and the resident survey, just so they can kind of get up to speed. They also have to know what's carrying over from the plan that is a recommendation, or their recommendations of stuff carrying over from the last plan, if there's anything that is outstanding, and then net new. And it's not a 1 hour or 2 hour meeting. This could be like, you know, a 4 hour plus meeting. Yeah.
What was the timing of that?
It's going to be in February. Has to be, because we have to get through all the consultation and the evaluation, the analysis piece, so that I know what I'm going into that meeting with.
We should be sending out save the dates.
Right, so it's
gonna.
So how does everybody know?
Yes, so as soon as this meeting today is done, and you know, I have your direction on this document and the approach, then I start looking. I've kind of already pre-booked a couple of meetings, like with Irina and with Susanna, just because those are groups that were immovable. So the rest I'm going to have to be at the mercy of people's schedule and just make myself available. So, okay.
Just when we're talking about that list, there's no housing providers, low income earners,
On
providers
which list are you on? Sorry, are you on the green sheet?
listed.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll come, I think we'll go through it, and then we'll go through and maybe move some of the boxes around or add or delete. I think that was, the intent was to take a look at, see what's missing or what.
All right.
There's lots there.
There's lots there. And again, that list, when we get to it, that, I think, you know, you're 3 years into your plan, you kind of have maybe a different sense of it now. It is, I think, a bigger list than was maybe in the first go round of the plan. So the risk is, when you name a lot of organizations, the more you name, the more you run the risk of forgetting one or two, right? And so we have to kind of keep that in mind, that it's not going to be every provider, but every provider will have the opportunity, if they want, to complete the survey. But for some of the one-to-one conversations or for the actual strategy setting, it's not going to be every provider in Barrie that would even have like a kind of,
Yeah, Karie, I can say the last time around it was more random and less specific in terms of who the committee spoke with. So it was this was kind of, the strategy was the exact opposite, a little less random and a little more focused. So that is the difference.
But I think if you are doing the provider consultations and you're meeting with the Barrie OHT, there's a number of, as she's mentioned, partners at that table that are in that list. Same with the county coalition for Talking Family Coalition. And if you listed SCADA, which would also have Redwood Park and Busby, I'm not sure, Fry, the women's shelter. So I think that if you do
There's a lot
go that route, there's a lot of them being part of those consultations. I think SCADA really does need to be involved for sure.
So the deliverables are, as I mentioned, the report summarizing the consultation findings, and then the revised priority areas and strategies for inclusion in your refresh plan. And that would come right at the end when it brought back to this group, the recommendations for the strategies.
Karie, can I interrupt you just with one question there? Are you preparing the actual electronic plan that will be distributed, or is it stop there and then we've got to put together, physically put the plan together?
No, I'm putting your plan together.
Okay, thank you.
Unless you really want to.
No, when I looked at the deliverables, I go, are we getting the actual
Yeah,
at the
well,
end?
this was just for the consultation piece, right?
Thank you,
So,
thank you
yeah.
for your up.
No, it's a good clarification. So we had lots of conversation around the recommendations around, how do we engage people with lived experience. I did take those back to some consultant colleagues of mine that are consultants around lived experience. That is what they do. They did feel strongly about not having one session where you're inviting different people with different experiences because it would not be focused, but they absolutely saw the value in the engagement of people with lived experience just at the right time in the process. The county's also, refreshing their plans, and so we're going to be doing some engagement, and so I think that there'll probably be some things that this committee might find of interest, depending on how those go, some learnings. But as far as the recommendation for this group, based on what I heard last time and kind of looking at the process that we're following here, is that once we get to that provider session, where it's that one session where we're talking about what strategies are kind of viable and doable, before those, between that and when they get approved by this committee and baked into the plan, we should be bringing some of these ideas back to people that have the experience of consuming the services or having that area of risk relevant in their life. And so that's where we're going to lean on the providers who are most directly connected to those people. Either they serve them or they have some type of affiliation with them, to then invite those people. We did talk about a budget. I know that I'm not sure where that landed with this group. It was a small proposed budget to compensate people for providing direct input on strategies. So I clearly heard Mayor Nuttall and the conversations around, we don't pay anyone else to do the survey. So that, we've taken that out. So people do the survey voluntarily, everyone, and providers will receive that survey and will encourage people that they're connected with and that they serve to complete the survey, and they'll help them complete the survey. But as far as the direct engagement with people with experience, that would come later in the process, so kind of like that late February, early March kind of thing, just to make sure that what is being proposed is correct, is agreeable, that makes sense from their perspective, because they're the ones who would have the closest lens on whether this makes sense or not. People's thoughts on that? Does that?
We've done them before, and they're called more truthing sessions. So it's like to share back and confirm if ideas resonate.
Let's do that. Truthing session. Sure. I'll quote you. I'll credit you.
Any other comments? Carry on, Karie, please.
Okay, so, the roles and responsibility in this really, looking at this group here, providing the oversight and the guidance on the consultation process. Right now, our meeting today is great evidence of that, and acting as ambassadors or champions to encourage stakeholder participation. So when we get those QR reports, when we get the marketing pieces out, to be the voices to say, hey, did you know that the survey has been released? We really encourage you to do it. The consultation teams, that's myself and some colleagues that I'm going to bring into this work, is facilitate all the engagement activities, and then looking at the data and synthesizing the findings into actionable insights for this group and for the provider group that will then kind of pick it up and look at strategies. Stakeholders, looking at those people who are on that table in the different boxes of green to actively participate in the consultations, looking at their honest and constructive feedback. And then also, again, as I mentioned, for providers to encourage people that they are connected with, whether it is their client, participant, patient, whatever the term is that they use for how they engage, to complete the online survey. So the thought is, again, we have a refreshed CSWP plan, the streamlined, actionable, and aligned with the community needs, that through the strategies and through...
That concludes the update on community safety and policing in Barrie. Thank you for watching.